Hello and welcome to the Vox News. I am Adetokunbo Akintayo. A UN report has criticized Shell and the Nigerian government for contributing to 50 years of pollution in the region of the Niger Delta, which it says needs the world's largest ever oil cleanup, costing an initial $1 billion and taking up to 30 years. The United Nations Environment Programme, UNEP, analyzed the damage oil pollution has done in Ogoniland, a region in the oil-rich labyrinth creeks, swamps and waterways of the Niger Delta, the heartland of Africa's largest oil and gas industry. Royal Dutch Shell and the Nigerian state oil firm own most of the oil infrastructure in Ogoniland. Shell stopped pumping oil from Ogoniland after a campaign led by writer and activist Ken Saro-Wiwa, who was later hanged by the Nigerian military government, provoking international outrage. Amnesty International, actively involved in Niger Delta environmental problems, said the report proved the Anglo-Dutch major was responsible for the pollution.
We found the report and the contents of the report both confirming things that were already in the public domain, but confirming them with scientific evidence for the first time. But we've also found some shocking revelations in there. Two of the things that Amnesty in particular would draw out are the pollution of water in the Niger Delta, pollution of water that people drink. This has been exposed by this report because UNEP, the environmental experts, were able to take water samples across Ogoniland, and they've shown that the water that people drink is polluted, not just in the rivers and streams, but groundwater is polluted. So this exposure of Shell's failure to clean up is extremely serious, because Shell's often maintained that it operates to best international standards. That's totally debunked by this report. The human impact is that people are drinking polluted water, growing crops in polluted land, breathing polluted air. Their health is at risk. They're trying to fish in polluted water if they can find fish, which becomes increasingly difficult. And so the cumulative impact of this, and this has been going on for 50 years in the Delta, this is incredibly serious. And hopefully this UN report, because it's science-based and peer-reviewed science, will move the debate forward and move us towards actually dealing with the problem in the Delta.
Nigerians in the community affected by two oil spills blamed on the oil giant Shell welcome the UN report, which calls for a massive cleanup and reparations to communities in the region, while activists say the report is an important first step.
Several other ones occurred. Shell went behind us to clamp them. It was not just that two that occurred, those two that occurred. Several other ones occurred. So I'm excited with the judgment. The money in question they mentioned is even what I was expecting was even more than that. But we gave a power of attorney to some people, asking them to speak on our behalf. So I'm excited with.
It should also become the evidence, if government needed one, to use what the law says. I mean, Section 25 of the regulations made pursuant to the Petroleum Act clearly stipulates that the minister shall revoke license of any oil prospector or any oil company that does not conduct its practice according to the best industry practices. And the regulations made thereunder stipulates, for instance, that spillages must be done within 24 hours, and if it is done, it must be, when you clean it up, it must be to international standards. So if this had not happened, then the minister should revoke their license. That is one of the value that we can have of the report. For us as Ogoni people, we are also contemplating whether that should not become a springboard for a next legal action in the jurisdiction where we think we can get justice. And we are already talking with.
And we're still in Nigeria. Impoverished communities in the oil-rich Niger Delta have protested for decades against foreign oil companies that have grown rich from the oil reserves under their feet, while they continue to live in poverty. Recent protests saw residents demand for electricity, employment and infrastructure development. Melissa Chemam has more on the situation in Nigeria's Niger Delta.
The river Niger's Delta, southern Nigeria, one of the richest regions in oil in the world. Yet, its inhabitants have rarely seen much of the billions. So after years of complaints, they have decided to react and blame foreign oil companies.
Number one is the light. Other issues are old issues of employment, and building up our women, capacity building on women so poor, so low. Our youths are not trained. They pick youths from other areas and send for training. That's good. We needed our own to be on the queue. So many other things we are talking about. Infrastructural development. So we want them to touch each and every of this sector and build up the people.
Among the companies blamed, the Anglo-Dutch oil giant Shell is on the front line. The company has been accused of corruption and has been involved in many pollution accidents, and frequent oil spills have jeopardized farming and fishing in the region.
Except Shell is wise enough to meet up its obligation to the people, we will soon see the place boiling, because some youths are ready to meet Shell head-on. And that is what we don't want again in the Niger Delta. Shell should respect MOUs or GMOUs, whether it was signed as a contract or not, provided you reach this agreement with the people.
According to locals, Shell regularly failed to clean up oil spins and even to pay some of its Nigerian employees. The company blames insecurity in the region for any misbehavior on its side. The region is indeed the birthplace of many rebellion movements, which regularly attack the oil infrastructures. But for Nigerians, Shell is just using the situation as an excuse not to respect its promises. But this Wednesday, a British court ruled that local communities can seek compensation from the oil giant. And Shell has taken responsibility for 2 controversial spills in the Ogoni region, a move that might cost the company more than $400 million in compensation.
The United Nations World Food Programme said on Thursday its team were feeding around 85,000 displaced people per day at camps around the Somali capital, Mogadishu. The figure was given the day after the UN said the famine gripping parts of southern Somalia had spread to 3 new areas of the country, with the entire south likely to be declared a famine zone within the next 6 weeks. Each day, hundreds of drought-hit Somalis are streaming into squalid camps in and around Mogadishu, defying rebel orders to stay put and walking into a war zone. The start of the Muslim holy month of Ramadan 3 days ago coincided with a new offensive by African peacekeepers and government forces against the insurgents and a jump in rebel suicide attack threats. The violence has compromised the delivery of emergency aid. And World Food Programme spokesperson David Orr said WFP and its local partners were offering hot meals at 23 sites throughout Mogadishu.
At this particular site where we are right now, we're serving hot meals to about 2,000 people, and many of them have walked for days and weeks to get here from the interior. So they're really in need of this support from us and our partners here in Mogadishu.
I'm still with Somalia. Following a meeting with the Canadian Foreign Minister, U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton said Al-Shabaab militants must allow food aid into Somalia.
It is particularly tragic that during the holy month of Ramadan, Al-Shabaab are preventing assistance to the most vulnerable populations in Somalia, namely children, including infants, and girls and women who are attempting to bring themselves and those children to safety and to the potential of being fed before more deaths occur. I call on Al-Shabaab to allow assistance to be delivered in an absolutely unfettered way throughout the area that they currently control, so that as many lives as possible can be saved. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
A rebel spokesman said on Friday that a NATO air attack has killed 32 people, including Muammar Gaddafi's son, Kamiz, who serves as one of the main commanders of the Libyan leader's military forces. The rebel spokesman said the airstrike took place as Litan, a frontline town where some of Gaddafi's most loyal and best-equipped troops are making a stand to defend the outskirts of Tripoli, 160 kilometers away. A NATO official at operations headquarters in Naples said he was aware of the report but could not confirm it. There was no immediate comment from the Tripoli government. If confirmed, the death of Kamis Gaddafi will be a severe blow to his father, Gaddafi. Kamis is head of Libya's 32nd Brigade, one of Gaddafi's most professional and loyal units, which has been fighting in Zlatan. The Italian Coast Guard rescued a boat carrying 370 people fleeing Libya after it ran into difficulties off the small Sicilian island of Lampedusa on Thursday. It is the latest in a wave of arrivals since a Western alliance began a military campaign to oust Libyan ruler Muammar Gaddafi. A Cypriot tugboat had raised the alarm after initially trying to help. 3 people suffering from extreme dehydration, including a pregnant woman, were taken away by helicopter. Those rescued said several migrants had died on the journey because of hunger, with many dead being thrown overboard at sea. Well, that's about it on the Vox News. Thanks for staying with us. I'll be back with you much later. Goodbye for now.